We West Texans are, by nature, a conservative lot. Perhaps that's born from forever looking to the skies to provide. As our farming and ranching forefathers can attest, sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Perhaps our conservative ways spring from our ample experience riding the roller coaster that is the oil and gas market. As our wildcatting ancestors will tell you, if it's not boom, it's bust. Or maybe it's our faith that pulls us toward a more conservative way of living. The good book, after all, tells us the meek shall inherit the earth. But San Angelo's conservative culture has, at times, been punctuated by lightning bolts of remarkable boldness. Civic leaders in 1928 gamely built a 5-story city hall when 2 stories would have served just fine. Following a massive renovation in 2012, that historic edifice is still serving the community quite nicely. In 1958, the leaders of the day dauntlessly built an indoor arena capable of hosting San Angelo's signature event. Today, Foster Communications Coliseum continues to serve our city and its professional rodeo so well that plans are being explored to expand its seating. In 1972, community leaders peered deep into the future and saw the need for more water. So they audaciously acquired rights to the Hickory Aquifer, a water supply San Angelo didn't tap until 42 years later. San Angelo's conservative nature has led us to skimp on infrastructure that is critical to the community, namely water, streets, and a police station. At the same time, the city has paid its public servants, including police officers and firefighters, substantially less than their peers in similar-sized communities. That has made it increasingly difficult to retain our municipal government's top talent and its most prodigious producers. Once again, San Angelo finds itself in a position that calls for boldness. Led by the City Council's 7 members, San Angelo is poised and committed to making resolute strides in 2016 on the 5 key priorities the Council formally adopted 2 years ago.
We need to start looking at the future and start looking at what we can do to better serve our community. We know that we have a lot of needs, a lot of dire needs actually. We have infrastructure that's failing in different areas. Boldness means going forward and saying, we know that the cost is high, but we know that the cost is even higher if we don't do something about this. So that's why we know that boldness is the way to go moving forward. It doesn't mean that we're going to be reckless with the way that we spend the money. We want to do everything we possibly can to be creative with our financing to allow us to fund all these projects.
The stark reality is that doing nothing in regards to water, streets, a police station, city employee pay, and development processes, the Council's 5th priority, will eventually yield even higher cost after potentially crippling consequences. The time seems right for San Angelo to charge boldly into its future. Of the City Council's 5 priorities, water remains its primary focus. After all, a community cannot survive and thrive without a reliable source of water. San Angelo's water challenge is threefold. Not only must we grow the amount of water available to us, we must reinvest more meaningfully in the water utilities infrastructure while cementing its financial sustainability. That's a tall order. Currently, San Angelo is in the final stages of the Hickory Aquifer project. If needed because of depleted reservoirs, the $120 million effort now gives San Angelo the capacity to pump and treat 9 million gallons per day from the McCullough County well field some 60 miles away. San Angelo's allocation from the well field is capped by court order. So, the city is limiting what it pumps from the Hickory and banking the unused allocation in the event San Angelo must someday rely upon the aquifer as its sole water source. Currently, the city is pumping about 1.5 million gallons per day from the aquifer. That's just enough to keep its infrastructure in good working order. In the meantime, expansion of the well field continues. Once finished next spring, that project will increase the pumping capacity to nearly 11 million gallons per day. The drought has further underscored the dire necessity to diversify San Angelo's water assets. Despite enjoying plentiful rainfall through the first 6 months of 2015, San Angelo's reservoirs, including Ivy, remained at less than 20% of their capacities. No longer can our community look only to the sky to provide its water. That's why the City Council approved a $1.2 million pilot project to determine what would be involved in treating San Angelo's wastewater back to drinking standards. Proponents call wastewater reuse a guaranteed source of water.
Currently, all of the water supplies are dependent on rain, and so during times of drought, our water supply is very vulnerable. Direct reuse of the wastewater would be one supply that's guaranteed regardless of the drought, completely drought resistant. So I think from as part of the portfolio, I think it's very important.
In 2015, direct potable reuse projects were launched in Big Spring and Wichita Falls. Such an effort in San Angelo could yield 7 million to 9 million gallons per day. That's enough to provide for typical wintertime consumption when homeowners are not watering lawns. The pilot project is needed to determine exact specifications for treating San Angelo's wastewater and to secure state permits. The city intends to seek a low-interest loan from the Texas Water Development Board to finance the project, much as it did with the Hickory Aquifer. The wastewater reuse project is estimated to cost $136 million. The pilot project will continue into 2016.
I think it's important to understand that it's not the final answer. It's something we need to do now and to shore up our supplies, but I think there's still a lot of work to be done to find additional supplies for the future.
The City Council also approved the $152,000 study on the feasibility of capturing stormwater from the Red Arroyo. Among the questions engineers will answer is how much water could be gained by building a detention pond to hold stormwater that flows through the arroyo. Water rights are in place to capture 5,000 acre-feet annually. That would represent about 1/3 of San Angelo's annual water usage. Water flows through the arroyo will be measured for a year to determine how much water could be captured. At the same time, engineers will determine what effect the water table will have on the estimated $20 million cost of the detention facility. This information will be used to determine if this is a financially feasible project. The drawback of such an effort would be that, like San Angelo's reservoirs, it depends upon rainfall. San Angelo is continuing its work with Abilene and Midland in search of a regional water source that could serve all three cities and their neighboring communities. The West Texas Water Partnership is a long-range effort to develop what would be a 100-year water source. The partnership will continue its work of analyzing potential water sources until a long-term supply can be secured. In fiscal year 2015, the city invested $5.8 million from the Water Fund into water infrastructure. That includes replacing 2 to 3 miles of failing water mains at a cost of approximately $1.3 million. However, 190 miles of pipe warrant replacement. Reinvestment in infrastructure is a key reason the City Council is considering raising water rates in the coming year. Again, the goal is threefold. First, we must make the water utility financially sustainable. The historic drought that has gripped West Texas since 2011 has necessarily forced us into a conservation mindset. That's positive. Conservation has helped San Angelo extend its water supply. But it has also resulted in less water sold and less revenue for the utility. Operational costs for a water utility, however, are fixed, regardless of the amount of water sold. That's left San Angelo's water utility operating in the red and dipping into its fund balance. The city seeks to maintain fund balances equivalent to 75 days of operating expense. The water fund balance is down to fewer than 20 days. Continuing to operate under the current rate structure is not financially sustainable. Second, as mentioned, we must have the resources to more meaningfully reinvest in our water infrastructure. Chiefly, this involves more aggressive infrastructure rehabilitation efforts. Too many of San Angelo's water mains are cast iron pipes that are more than 50 years old, well beyond their intended lifespan. That affects us in two ways. Because those ancient mains are prone to breaks, they lead to more interruptions in water service and the potential for catastrophic interruptions such as in 2007. And because the water mains are prone to leaks, we lose precious water and the revenue it could be generating. Such losses can reasonably be reduced by half. Lastly, San Angelo's water utility must be in a position of financial stability to attain the financing that will be vital to developing future water sources. The Hickory Aquifer costs $120 million. Wastewater reuse will cost more than $130 million. A Red Arroyo project could cost $20 million or more. A regional water source developed by the West Texas Water Partnership will surely cost more than $100 million. The expense of developing water sources is enormous. But simply put, San Angelo can't afford not to develop more water sources. Our community's ability to survive and thrive for generations to come depends upon it.
Without raising rates, we don't have the funds to develop any new water resources, so that's critical. But it's also critical to raise the rates to meet current needs and to get the utility, I think the term that's been used, to right the ship. The utility is definitely funds in a deficit, and so the rate increase is very important to continue to maintain the financial sustainability of the utility.
The city's water rate consultant has proposed a 5-year plan that would incrementally increase the average residential customer's water and wastewater bill from $51 to $82 per month. That's not an insignificant increase. The consultant, the Water Advisory Board, and the City Council are still studying how to mitigate that as much as possible. But as one Water Advisory Board member said, the days of cheap water are gone. If water is the City Council's top priority, streets surely represent 1A. Anyone who has driven Bell Street, MLK Boulevard, or 29th Street can attest to the need. City management and the City Council are in lockstep agreement with citizens on that count. So, we are laying a foundation for improving city streets. That's reflected in the nearly $4 million that were budgeted for street maintenance in 2015. That's a more than 5-fold increase over the $600,000 that were budgeted in 2012. The $4 million figure also includes an additional crew dedicated to street maintenance. This year's seal coating project, which will improve streets in 6 areas throughout town, represents year 1 of an 8-year cycle to improve every city-maintained roadway in San Angelo. Key to that effort will be an unflagging commitment by future city councils to stay the course, even in tough economic times.
Who really wants to come to San Angelo when they can't drive down a street? I think it, 1, gives us a bad image. 2, our taxpayers, our constituents deserve quality streets, and we should be giving them those streets. And so I'm very much in support of moving forward in street repair.
The bigger challenge will be financing the reconstruction of failing streets, an effort whose price tag exceeds $150 million. These include Bell Street, 29th Street, MLK Boulevard, Galena Drive, Southwest Boulevard, and Main Street. That work will be guided by an exhaustive high-tech analysis of every block of each city-maintained street. The information that study yields will serve as a roadmap, so to speak, in determining the most effective approach for each stretch of city. That could be seal coating, mill and overlay, or reconstruction. A $100,000 slice of an additional $3 million in city revenue this year has been allocated to street improvements. That figure alone isn't a difference maker, but it could be complemented by some or all of the $825,000 the city allocated to repaying debt. That debt could be issued to address any combination of street reconstruction or a new police station, another council priority. San Angelo's police officers deserve better than the headquarters building in which they must work. Built in 1963, the station at 401 East Beauregard can no longer meet the demands of modern-day policing. The SAPD's narcotics, traffic, training, and community services divisions operate apart from the rest of the police department in satellite locations across the city. At the downtown station, every nook, including closets and hallways, has been crudely converted into workspaces, despite being not well suited for that. Only the thinnest frames can navigate records and evidence storage rooms that seem ready to burst. The building's electrical, plumbing, and mechanical systems are failing, and 21st century technology has left San Angelo's police station stalled alongside the information superhighway. City officials have carefully considered how the current station might be renovated and expanded to provide the 100,000 plus square feet the SAPD needs to consolidate its functions and accommodate its officers. That's more than double the size of the current structure, which measures 45,000 square feet. We've concluded that neither it nor the site could feasibly provide for the police department's needs. After nearly 4 years of exploring potential options and sites, the city in March reached an agreement with First Financial Bank to purchase its property at 301 West Beauregard for nearly $1.6 million. The site is centrally located downtown, highly visible, and easily accessible from 2 major thoroughfares. The question now is how to develop it in such a way that works for both the SAPD's mission and taxpayers' pocketbooks. That question will likely be posed to taxpayers in a rare city bond election later this year. The amount of that election could be as much as $25 million. The vote will guide how the property and the facility that sits upon it are developed, and ultimately, the sort of station the SAPD occupies.
I think that the voters have been keeping up with all the issues that have occurred in our station and understand what's happened here and that we've outgrown the building. I think that they'll be very supportive of the bond election.
No one questions the need to improve water mains, streets, and our police station, but it's our employees who represent the City of San Angelo's greatest resource. With that in mind, the City Council has remained true to its commitment to inch city employee pay to 95% of what their peers earn in the 13 benchmark cities to which we compare ourselves. Currently, the average non-civil service employee is paid approximately 88% of a peer in a benchmark city. The Council has approved 6.26% raises for police officers and firefighters. The pay increase for all other city employees will be 5.1%. That followed raises of 6.78% for police officers and 5% for civilians in 2014. Increasing employee pay is important in two regards. One, the City of San Angelo possesses a treasure trove of talent among its staff. We have a vested interest in retaining experienced, well-trained, and productive employees. Offering competitive pay and benefits is key to attracting and keeping high achievers and to plugging any brain drain. This is especially true of police officers and firefighters, into whom the city invests tens of thousands of dollars in training. Two, in San Angelo's job market, which is heavily influenced by the oil and gas economy, competitive pay helps skilled labor resist the siren call of the oil field. The city lost a small army of employees who were good with their hands and good with tools when crude was selling for $100 per barrel. An investment in steady, competitive salaries may pay off when the oil field booms next.
It's incredibly important that we retain these good employees and that we, by raising their rates of pay, it shows their worthiness and it is an appreciation for them and it creates value in what they do when they see the citizens enjoying the things that they produce.
San Angelo has a vested interest in increasing the ease of doing business here. More businesses generate more jobs and more property and sales taxes. In turn, those yield higher levels of city service. To facilitate development processes that are easily accessible, quickly completed, and maximally efficient for job creators, the City Council has invested nearly $500,000 into improvements. This includes the installation of software whose function includes electronic plan reviews. The new software will go live in the coming months. The city has also increased staffing in planning and development services by 2 positions to meet increasing demands and produce quicker decisions. The headway will continue in the coming year.
Good development needs to be expedited, and whatever resources that we can put toward expediting that is in the entire community's best interest. Because again, as I said, once that property goes on the tax rolls, that provides a little bit of relief for the rest of us. And so I think that needs to remain a priority of the City Council. And I think whatever resources that we can identify in other areas that can be moved to that should be, because I think it pays for itself, exponentially.
The City Council has approved an additional $20,000 for employee training to further the effort. Further, the city will consider hiring a consultant with specific expertise to conduct a comprehensive examination of San Angelo's zoning ordinances and to offer best practices. That effort will be spearheaded by new Planning and Development Services Director John James. James joined the city in late August after having served in the same position for 10-plus years in Abilene. During that span, he coordinated a complete rewrite of Abilene's Land Development Code. He also oversaw revisions to subdivision regulations and a sign ordinance, and drafted Abilene's first ordinances regarding sidewalks, landscaping, and urban design. Progress has been made on many other fronts in 2015 and will be made on more in 2016. This summer, Republic Services launched a new system of collecting garbage that includes curbside recycling. The transition has not been seamless, and the change has been disconcerting for some. Change often is. We remain fully confident that Republic will iron out the kinks, and that San Angelo will soon adapt to automated trash pickup, just as scores of other communities across the state and nation have for decades now. After a string of construction challenges, the renovations to San Angelo Regional Airport's terminal will soon fully take flight. The pursuit of a second airline has been and will continue to be dogged. The Red Arroyo Walking Trail will be completed this fall. A partnership with the Texas Department of Transportation, the project will link Sherwood Way and Knickerbocker Road with 4 miles of a paved 14-foot wide path perfect for walking, running, biking, and skating. Just off the trail near Unidad Park, San Angelo will build its first dog park in the coming year. Funds for the Bark Park have mostly been raised privately. New leadership at the animal shelter has vastly improved the living conditions for the dogs and cats there and dramatically reduced the rate of euthanasia. In the coming weeks, the City Council will consider a spay-neuter ordinance in an effort to reduce San Angelo's pet overpopulation. We've also welcomed new leadership in the City Clerk and the City Attorney's offices, in the Recreation and Civic Events divisions, Engineering Services, Planning and Development Services, Water Utilities, Risk Management, Traffic, and WIC. In each instance, those directors and managers have brought fresh perspectives, new energy, and a batch of innovative ideas that will propel us forward. We graduated the first class of Coastal University, a Citizens Citizen Academy. We've won awards in finance, budget, and public information. The long-anticipated renovation of City Auditorium will last throughout 2016 as the transformation of a nearby performing arts center continues. In November, voters will consider changes to the city charter, which serves as our municipal government's constitution. The propositions include lengthening city council terms to 4 years, limiting council service to 8 consecutive years, paying city council members more, and moving from an elected to an appointed police chief.
I think a lot of times it's easier to kind of say, let's just keep doing things the way we were doing it before because there's less hassle over that. I'd rather have the hassle and make sure that we're actually operating with a good business sense and doing the right things for our citizens as well.
Looking forward, addressing San Angelo's needs, particularly as reflected by the City Council's 5 priorities, will require thoughtful planning and deft execution. Our needs do not accumulate over a 1-year span, neither will they be fully resolved in the coming 12 months. But now is the time to begin tackling those issues in a manner that combines insight, strategy, resolve, and yes, boldness. Standing pat is no longer an option. Our community is beyond hungry for boldness. Our citizens, public servants, and elected leaders are demanding it. Together, we are ready to charge boldly into the future in ensuring that San Angelo is the Texas standard for opportunity, prosperity, and quality of life.